Wait for y'all to actually get in. Hello, hello. I was hoping to talk to y'all a few minutes. I know folks are watching the presidential inauguration, and I actually wanted to chat a tiny bit about that, but also find out if anybody who is not, if folks aren't vegan and they're trying to transition, would definitely love to hear any like what are you going through? Like what's your process, looking like? And who is vegan? I see Foodie Greens. What's up? How y'all doing? Um, so I'm not gonna get too political, even though I'm bringing up the presidential inauguration right now. When I say too political, I mean um, social justice is, needs to be on everybody's mind. So I'm not gonna go too much into that. Um, right now, pretty much that is almost 100% of my life, and but I do want to find out if anyone is transitioning. But aside from that, I want to talk about parenting. Um, and so you had the Black Veg Fest breakout. So here's a thought. Here's an idea in terms of parenting. So there's a lot of folks who really don't want to become a parent. Understand, respect that. I'm a parent. I wanted children. I love my children. I have three. My daughter, 19, that's my eldest. 13-year-old daughter, and I have 11-year-old son. Um, and then also uh, my partner, she also has three children, is as well, and we basically we cohabitate, obviously, and our children come in and out of the house, and obviously there's things for people to do. Parents have to set certain guidelines, structure. But one of the things I'm thinking about, and I was thinking more about it today, I've always been thinking about it, but maybe setting a schedule for children to adhere to, like say doing dishes, say cleaning the counter, taking out trash, cleaning up in the bathroom. When children are told to do those and you write those things down, you really creating. I know I'm going out on a limb here. You really creating somebody who's going to be adhere to structure, and that's fine for a lot of people. Some people just like their life have to be like totally need to be structured. So now your life is more structured during this pandemic, right? Your life is really, structured during this pandemic. And most of us don't like it. You don't like that idea that, because this particular structure where you're forced to, you have to wear a mask. Regardless if you want to or not, you have to wear a mask, right? When you're going into a place. So that's a particular structure. That's what we need. I totally adhere to that, and I agree and I believe it. But I believe that the structure overall, like going to school, you must sit down, you listen, and that's how you learn. You need to do this on this particular date. It doesn't give you the compassion to go ahead and say, you know what, I live in this particular household, I'm going to clean this. We're not told that. You just told that you're going to clean, and that's what you need to do, because people don't want to go in a mess. But what if you need to clean this so everybody actually feels comfortable, so that it doesn't ruin anything, the counter or whatever the case, putting food back in, taking care of certain items. That teaching structure, of course, it takes more time. It's longer. It's a longer process. It's more consistent. You're gonna have mistakes on there because you're gonna constantly be telling a child, hey, you need to do this, you need to do that. But guess what? The benefits are later on in life. Later on in life, when folks don't have compassion, and which a lot of folks, go into the social justice movement, like myself, because of what we've seen, our parents, bringing us in there. That's me. I'm coming to into the social justice movement very young. I was actually just writing about that. I was passing out, voting leaflets at in '84. I was born in '78. Jesse Jackson was running at that time. We were trying to, get black folks, to vote, be more engaged in the political process, in the voting process. So I come into that particular work based on my parent, teaching me to go ahead and do that. It doesn't mean necessarily that we all have compassion because we're doing that, right? I still had to go through seminar, different meetings, understanding, learning, and how we actually can better cohabitate, better learn and understand, how we can get along a lot better. And that is what I've learned going and being in organizing spaces, learning that compassion. That takes a lot of time for people to be able to understand. Yeah, that's intersectionality. Being able to understand, and intersectionality covers so many different things. Being black, being working class. Of course, I can understand the other folks who are working class, other folks, of color, as well. Based on those lines, that you see an oppression, you are confronted with oppressive situations as well. And so seeing this teaches you more compassion, right? Just from your perspective, obviously you don't want to be harmed, but people also in your community also don't want to be harmed. So teaching that in that form, to do something in the household, the chores, because there's chores for children to do. I definitely, give the kids, chores, and they basically submit to the chores based on, it should be based on a relationship that I'm assisting you, that I'm helping you with that particular structure. So I'm helping you in terms of bills, and in terms of fixing, around making sure that food is, there, on a plate. And we want to teach our children this instead of, well, do this structure right here, because you go in somebody else's house, they might pop you, upside of the head, right? So there's just a different way on how we can approach parenting. Whereas parenting is usually, and I know most people basically are just like, I'm going to put down this particular schedule. You going to wash dishes on Monday. You going to clean the bathroom, on Tuesday. On Wednesday, you're going to go ahead and take out the garbage. The next day, Thursday, you might be, you have to wash the clothes and dry them. There's so many different things. Clean the, so up here it's, snowing. You got to snow the particular time and give particular times. You teach folks, because we basically, we need to have a ground where there's a certain amount of years that we teaching our adolescents, our young adults, how to be actual functioning adults, how to be emotionally, and engaged. And a lot of these things, I was lacking, still trying to find grip, still finding grip. One of the things I have learned is that, my kids love me, and so therefore, there's particular jobs that they can do, right? And so they do those jobs, not because they're afraid of me and I'm going to go and do something, to them. And I think we've been doing that. So I've been doing that, for most of, my parenting, right? And intimately changing that up. And I think in order to do that, you got to be working, on yourself consistently. But that is one of my that's it's controversial for a lot of parents to have to try more on seeing your child, make errors and mistakes and keep reminding them. That is a difficult thing that you got to keep reminding them, where you don't have a schedule, you don't have a particular structure, because people just going to fall into the structure. Then later on, you're gonna say, why you falling? Why you doing everything that this person is doing? Or, are you following that? How many times have, in black households, said, if such and such jump off the roof, you gonna jump off the roof too? So we constantly just follow these particular formats, like do this format because this works. People are gonna follow any format. Now the format could be it could be for their life. It could help them out. And for like, and a lot of things need to have, a format. But when we teaching this to our children, I think there needs to be a lot of leeway in hearing that conversation, that discussion. Then do not get me wrong, I am not perfect on this, at all. But speaking of my babies, they love me. We talk about these issues and these conditions, and honestly, um, a lot of these conversations don't happen in a lot of households. We really don't have a conversation, and talking about compassion, like the reason why you forced. A schedule is there, you must adhere to that schedule, right? Because everything is based on work. Everything that you do and that your parent is telling you, it's all based on the fact that you're gonna have to go to work. And so, but and that's true. You are gonna have to go to work, right? For resources. However, you go to work for the resources, but your life is not meant for you to just go to work. When we ask people like, "Oh, what do you do?" or what are you about? Everything centers around work. That's tough. It's even difficult, for me, for myself. But I'm not just straight working. When I tell people, I'm gonna put it in a nutshell. I'm an organizer, meaning I use different tools to implement my organizing skills, for whatever result that I'm looking for. So I do a host of many things to push social justice, ahead. So I'm an organizer. However, I try to say that more in a communal way, where it's not just some working thing, but I still fail on that as well, because in terms of what I do, if I educate folks, people want to know, well, what type of educator are you? I do fitness training. I'll mentor young folks. As well, educate folks on veganism. So it almost puts you in a particular place where you have to now start telling people based on your work. You define yourself based on work. And you don't want to pass that to your child, like your child is just, working. What if your child working at fast food? Your child a fast food worker? So it's a different way of just understanding that. And it really starts, young, when we start giving them chores and we put a particular schedule. And you don't want to teach that you don't do these things based on compassion. You do these things based on somebody who's paying for you. And so everything gets, we get brainwashed in society so often, over and over and over again. And so my entire point is, maybe don't try to put your kids into a particular schedule for everything. Organize yourself. But putting them in a schedule for every single thing in life, they're not going to do things based on the need, the necessity. the love, the compassion. They're gonna do it based on somebody done told them what to do, and so they learn, that hey, if I don't listen, somebody gonna yell at me, you know. And I think that once we get out of this idea that if I don't listen, somebody's gonna yell at me, we can really transition our society into a more compassionate, space. Like you do things not because somebody's gonna yell at you, be angry at you. You should be doing things because it's the best. It makes sense. It's the right thing to do, right? So we clean up, so we have a functioning space within the home, and really see that how other people are, making that happen and working. And definitely, I have to tell kids about my kids. Oh, you forgot this. Oh, you forgot that, and more communication. Because now it forces you to have more communication. With children instead of and then more patience. You already know. Hey, I'm gonna have to remind this person, and I'm getting into this process. So much more. I'm getting into this, this process. So people, what happens when people communicate, and what happens normally when people will communicate? People don't want to tell you that you did something wrong. It might hurt your feelings, and then you might hurt their feelings, right? And so people will wait, and because there's so much tension. But where that tension come from? That tension was built up and was created. It didn't come out of nowhere. It came from somewhere. So instead of have that conversation, make that a point to have that conversation more often. I'm saying this from a point of view somebody who's really trying to do that, my best daily, and take critique, accept critique, and keep him going. I'm also saying that somebody who's loved by his three children and loves his three children. And we're always having conversation, and debate. And sometimes I don't want to have no conversation, debate. I want something to get done. And the great thing, I think, and I don't have the same issues I know as other parents may have. Like my kid's gonna listen to me if I tell them to go ahead and pick this up or clean this or do that, have that process. And people, they just generally gonna do that. They just generally gonna do that. So it's definitely easier for me. But if you starting from, if you got a teen who they not trying to do anything, they're not trying to clean up or fix anything, well then that's a difficult situation. We want to definitely start young, but the greatest thing is mentorship. So I will go into, so it's mentorship. So it's, say for instance, you got a team. Now your team don't listen to you within, because they're older and they feel like you feel like you throw terms at them like they're lazy. They don't listen, so on and so forth. Uh, and but because we also think that they don't have issues or things that they got going on. They might not be as big and serious as yours, but they got their own issues, right? Like how you have your own issues in relationship to one of your peers. You got your own things that's going on with your mind. Their capacity is a lot smaller than your capacity for stress, right? They're a younger person, and so they haven't really learned how to deal with their situation, just yet. We got to be reminded, about that, often. But in understanding that they have to be reminded, every often, and you have to do that. You need to get them a mentor. I was just talking to my 19-year-old. She lives in Georgia, and I'll be seeing her next month. So she works like all the time, regularly, but she doesn't have. She told me she didn't have a mentor, and I was like, wow, you need to have a, so I had several mentors, growing up, and the mentors are outside of your parents. Your mentors outside of your parent. You normally want somebody who you identifies like you, had the same identity, and so they can help you through these spaces. And they're always older, generally they're going to be older. And so I try to do this for boys, but also offer that to to girls, and more so in the future. And I have done that in the past. So if there are teens, you could definitely see a Mawale. If you have particular teens, they need help. I love working with teens. I had on some occasions where teens would get upset and they be like, that was like one occasion. Um, and it was a young girl. You got to be able. It's tough for you to be able to understand somebody when they upset about you. That's difficult, and that's a difficult, and it's also a skill set too to develop. To be able to understand somebody who's actually yelling at you, who's just who's angry with you when a situation like that. So since I brought up that example where I was teaching boxing, but also mentoring a group of kids, um, young people were. It was part of a process where they would be preventing youth incarceration because they were adjudicated for some offense, and so this was a way for them not to get locked up and have these stiff penalties or in crazy sentencings, and some of them have been locked up for trespassing for like for a year and a half, which is ridiculous, even youth jails. So this young person, so it's boys and girls. So young lady, I forget what the issue was at the particular time. They just didn't want to be there, right? And so she was upset. Best thing you want to do is, especially if you're a male, you're a man, go ahead and and find a woman, a woman who's on there. It would be great. You could find a black woman, have her come in, speak to the young lady, even remove the young lady. I don't go back and forth, in those settings, and that's a quick because first off, I just want to explain to you, like, it's never perfect setting and working with young people because they got different emotions. They might blow up, like adults. The adults might blow up. I'm a little bit, more understanding of young people blowing up because you don't really know how to process. You don't know how to process your emotions the exact same way. Even adults don't know how to practice their emotions. It might take 2-3 minutes, and then it happens. We all have to, it might be a stressful time, stressful for her, in that situation because, well, she was arrested, and she's in a program, so she won't go to a youth jail. She won't go upstate, somewhere. This was in the city at the particular time. So anyway, now boys and girls, I definitely offer that mentorship, but I want folks to really start. If you have a young child, it's the best time for you to really start and try not to manage, but instead, you learning how to manage yourself. But if you manage them the exact same way, you just manage them for work. You just managing your children for a worker. You teaching them how to be a worker, And some people might be like, so like, I don't know, the kind of the feelings that people might have about money, employment, or just any resources, whatever the case may be, or just in terms you just learn this particular way. But consider that that children first. I give them the work, right? Give them the work, but I don't necessarily set when they're going to go ahead and do it. What I do is I'll have a deadline. So a deadline, and the deadline is reasonable. And the deadline wouldn't be just based off of me, coming up with that particular deadline. But yeah, you might have to remind them. You have to remind them even if you put out a piece of paper on the fridge and tell them Mondays, hey, there's dishes, and then Wednesday is you gotta wash and dry your clothes. So start with trying to totally understand exactly where young folks are coming from, you know understand where young folks are coming from. I love working with young folks, because you could see the growth. You can see where you're not working. You can see what does work. You know what I mean? Because they're gonna be like sponges. They're gonna be sponges. They're gonna be listening to their peers. They're gonna be understanding what you're saying based on how your peers and everything. I would say in all things in any time space, it's all based on the environment, the atmosphere that you have. I've gone into some atmospheres where it's like it's clean building, looks clean inside, but it's wild. There's no structure. There's no real there's no structure for young people to really adhere to, and and so there's no real guidance at all. There's zero guidance. So when I come into that situation, I definitely have to provide some structure without having without forcing kids to do it. And understand what I'm saying in terms of structure, because if I'm training someone in boxing, I'll come into a program training boxing and young people, raise their hand and they said, well, I don't want to participate. That young person could sit down. It wouldn't make any sense to force that young person to engage in boxing. They might not have wanted that program. There might be so many other reasons why they don't want to box right then and there. They might not want to tell you. Okay, if you talk about a girl that might come into the program, she might be on her period and just doesn't feel comfortable, right? It might be a young boy. You might be contemplating, suicide, whatever the case. If they say they don't want to do the training, what makes us in a lot of programs like force folks, and I would tell people a lot of times, listen, don't force them. He might come into it later on when he sees his peers. If Because young people don't just jump to everything just like that. When you're talking about teens, they don't just jump right in. And I've learned that they won't jump right into that structure. Younger kids might go ahead and do that for the wonder, right? But teens, they might look and they checking because they have more of a community space, of teens. They built their own community space, right? Where they own terms, they own work, their own language. They have their own language, their own clothing. I remember when my brother had got a fade, and I think he was I think junior high, might have just gone to high school, and I was like, whoa, what's that? I had no concept of fashion as a young kid. You know what I mean? Which also makes me think, why we put Jordans on kids who mad young? They have no idea, no concept of that. You know what I mean? We now forcing them to now think about, purchasing, these particular items, later on to be cool. But so teens have their own language. They have their own language, their own style. The way so they're looking at other peers and see how they enjoy themselves, right? And so I've seen young people, go from sitting and chilling and then allowing them to chill. They see you respect their wishes and it changes them. They see, I do that with my daughter who's 19 now. And when I know that she might seem cranky or whatever the case may be, just leave her alone. It's like, you okay? All right, I'm gonna leave you alone. I'll let you have a minute, and then I'll go ahead and be about my business, right? That girl come back around, give me a hug, kiss on the cheek, um, and really can't put into words and communicate in the words how thankful she was just for giving her a breather, a space. And so we practice giving, young people, a space. Listen, I'll definitely argue with them as well. But my daughter once, she was saying to me, I was arguing with her, having this conversation. I'm like, listen, the way I was coming wasn't the best way. And so she was like, Dad, do you see yourself? Now you gotta be some of these articulate, young kids. My daughter is an excellent student. She's like A's, and she's on honor roll, national honor roll. And so she processes information, and we support that. I co-parent with her mom, and we support that process of being able to, if I tell her something, she gonna think about it. She got to process that information. Now, a lot of times, like, it might be my anxiety that's bothering me, where I'm like, I need that to be done now. But I've spoken to her sometimes, and I've totally recognized, and I'm like, okay, understood. It makes sense for her not to do it at this particular time, or I see her point. Sometimes young people make excellent points, and even when we recognize them, we will totally dismiss those points. Like, it didn't make any sense, you know. So I wanted to really give that insight. And that was just how I was thinking and feeling, and flowing. I did want to know if folks um, were vegan, how they got into this, how they tried to get into this process. I really wanted to hear from people who weren't vegan, to be honest. And especially, and particularly, if they needed help in transition, but parenting is definitely one of those things that I feel, it's like an art. It's but it's also, it's pretty, it's pretty specific in a lot of ways. Is in most ways it's very specific. Like, love is not going to go. That's a structure. There's a structure of love. We have everything has a structure. Even not having a structure has a particular structure. However, um, these dates and the times, and putting it into kids to make sure that you follow this, and and you follow that, it's dangerous for the future. You got to do these things because they're necessary, not because somebody told you, right? Not because somebody told you. So it might work for you. It might work. You might have an excellent child. An excellent child. Some people have just adorable, and an excellent, smart thinking, children who, always, who are listening. They'll listen to what you tell them, right? You tell them to do. But what if that person doesn't speak up later on in life when somebody steps on them, right? At work, in the intimate relationships, what if they don't engage and they don't have conversation back because you done taught them, right? For your own convenience. And it is for our convenience. Oftentimes, because when I hear folks, say that, like they were trying to talk, I'm like, no, that's your convenience, because you mad. We really angry, and it happens. We want these things to get done, and you need to kind of teach that a lot of these things need to happen. Like, think of a particular skill set, that you don't even need to try to do, and that's how you want to teach how children relate to chores, not on the date and the time. They'll just go ahead and they'll do that, and that's how they will do for every single thing. Every single thing that you have for them, they will basically accomplish it just like that, without being able to without you take their voice away, right? You take their thoughts, away, the ability for them to say yes, or no, for them to decline, doing something, at least right then and there. Now, I'm saying that if you already have gotten through the process, that you have love in this respect, and they're listening to you. If you don't have that, I definitely do. I do train folks. I do train folks. In order to train fighters, it take work. In order to get trained as a fighter, it takes a lot of work, and it's discipline. It's discipline, and that's probably the only space where you need to have straight adherence to what you need to do. That's a whole different. That's a different animal. Everybody needs defense, self-defense, and you need to be able to listen to that structure. But when it's in your home, You treating folks like love. You treating folks like you listening. You're listening to them. And it's a flow process. I went to like trying to train my kids. Trying to train them to them coming to me and saying like we want to work out, we want to train. And then that would fluctuate. And then you got to be prepared to be like, you know what, I'm gonna just let you chill. And then I'm gonna go ahead and do what I'm doing because you might have something that you're doing that you want to actually do, right? They have their own goal, their own hobbies, their own goals in life. And my kids are different in that having their own goals. Some, like one daughter, basically, um, she's in junior high, knows a high school when she's like studying for her SHT. That's a standardized high school test to go into high school, and then she knows what college she wants to go into. She knows what she wants to work as. And then I have one child who's like she don't know, she just want to make money, so she's just working. So she works. Sometimes she works 6 days a week, but she working 5 days a week. And she's saving her money. I gotta talk to her. She want me to still be on her see her account. I'm like, you grown, now. And then my son, like, he's the youngest. He's 11. He's trying to figure himself, out. And then, and I think what a lot of guys do sometimes with boys, with sons, we don't recognize that they don't have that jump. And so this late blooming idea, it's a lot of young boys, or who are, quote unquote late bloomers. And that's somebody who doesn't really mature as fast. You got to tell them a little bit more, often. My boy will listen. I want him to have more conversation with me, but I tell him something, he just gonna go ahead and do that. you know um and so that's the weird thing. And then I have, one daughter, she'll listen, but then she'll like debate, and I'm like, I need you to do this and get this done. But the boy was just, go ahead and do that. And I'm like, I need you to, like step it up a little bit. Like, tell me, like, speak your mind. And so it's a balance, but recognize that boys don't have to jump right in there into manhood. But watch it now. Don't go from one extreme to the next. They don't have to go right into manhood. But he's 11. And I have explained to him that in 7 years, you're going to be an adult. But check this out, though. In 5 years, he can be prosecuted as an adult. So I'm not going to see him as just a child. I can't see him as just a child. He is a child that's learning and process to become, a thinking, a thinking man, in the future, a thinking adult, in the future, right? But right now, he's learning this, and I think sometimes we don't approach that like, we be like, they're kids, and my kids, listen, he live in New York. 16, you could be prosecuted as an adult, at 16. So we keep that in our mind, and he's a black boy, please. I've had cuffs on me, as a, teen, school, um, always something. Listen, there's so many stories that that black folks can tell you, so many of those, those times I had to just thinking, you feeling just like, closing, you just locked in. Now somebody would have prepped me, for that, when I was 17. Somebody would have prepped me for this process, and having guns, pointed, on me. So boys have this where we have to like teach them, you have to be understanding, you have to be more sensitive, to the girls. But listen, be honest with you, you cannot be a sucker. You can't be a sucker. You just cannot. My girls can't be suckers either. But the boy, you can't be a sucker. You can't be taken advantage of. You have to be taught where you're not going to be taken advantage of. So you having communication and dialogue with your parent when your parent might be wrong. If you teach your child that you need to just listen to me, they're gonna carry that out with any other relationship. Guarantee, like, why? That's what they learn. One of the things, if you understand, if you've ever learned martial arts or anything where it's so specific that you can be harmed, like some sciences, right? Like it's like you have to understand that like certain things in martial arts can go wrong right back, like that. If you're not listening, if you're not adhering, to this particular your process, and because martial arts comes to me like so quickly and like this, and automatic than it did. I know when it did not, and I know how fluid it is. Well, I don't have to think about it. Anything that you're trained, you're gonna do that. If I taught where I wasn't, striking like this, then I might strike somewhere else. But if I get startled and I have to move, anything, I'm gonna do whatever I was trained to do in anything. So just making that clear when you are telling your child that they need to go ahead and do this because you telling them to do that, you creating a robot. And then you're gonna get upset later on, not understanding that you put all the tools in the toolbox for them to be a robot. So do understand that, like when you teach them to be afraid, they gonna learn how to be afraid. They're gonna learn how to be afraid. If you teach them and you constantly tell them to be quiet. I know parents. I know there's some dope people who have children, and they always telling their child to be quiet. Like, when the hell can they make noise? Can think about that for a second though. I bought myself now. Think about that for a second. And I was bothered by that for years, and people didn't understand why I didn't let why I just allow my son to do that, or my daughter to, and they making unless somebody's actually doing an interview, unless somebody needs to be quiet, like there's a sleeping baby somewhere, and there needs to be reason. You know what I mean? Like there needs to be a reason why somebody needs to be quiet. You can't constantly tell them to be quiet. They'll be quiet when somebody touches them. You gonna want that. You want that child to be, to be loud. Like, this is what's happening. Oh, so do not teach them just listen to you and that's it. And I'll be honest with you, it is difficult. I'm not gonna tell you. I mean, like practicing martial arts. I mean, people go to school. Are certain things difficult? Like, yeah, it's difficult. There is a level of difficulty to parenting. Generally, that's why a lot of people don't want to become parents. You know, it's definitely a lot of work. It's you are always a parent. You're always thinking about that process. So I want to try to get them to a particular place where they don't feel forced to go ahead and get a job. They want to they want to try that job out, right, when they're young, or they want to get internships. Get them internships. My daughter works at a place. She works at. I'm not going to promote them. Um, I don't know what if I'd have called it something, you would know what it is. But anyway, she works at some corporation, but she works on the service end, right? Where she works with the customers. So she liked that job because she just she get money, and she knows how to like communicate and interact with people, right? So that's the kind of person that she is, even though she's more she's more of an introvert. She's more introvert. And I don't want to necessarily say, because sometimes people say that, like, I don't think people are 100% introverts. Most people are not 100% introverts or 100% extroverts. I think like this whole that concept, but at the same time, she's not out there interacting, so often. She's going to work. But when she's at work, she's communicating. When she's on online, she's interacting, with folks. I remember one time that it had a surprise I had at school when I went to Georgia. She was so happy, and she had took me out to meet all her friends, and just introduced me to them, and that was weird. They were like, okay, you can come on out there to the field with everyone. I was like, I ain't no parents could come out and actually interact with the other kids and everything. But it just is she's just it's a different dynamic, and you're always gonna have these different dynamic, children, who who you are, bringing into the world, and preparing, for the world. You really, it's preparation, right? So, and then I always talk about, and then they've always come with me when I travel, and what they used to in organizing anywhere in any space, any food justice work, any vegan event, for the last years. Um, I mean, obviously, you can't have that happen, and during this particular time, just them being able to see what you do. My kids have asked me, several times, and be like, "What you like?" I'm trying to find out, like, what, because you don't do like a nine to five. It's like they know I run an organization. They will know. They know I put out a couple books, but they will still be like, come to Black Veg Fest." Every time they come to Black Veg Fest. They're always helping out. They come in, and I've never asked them to help out. We have volunteers there. My kids just come in, especially the first year. They was so happy. They just come out, and just like, and I learned. And I was like, yo, you ain't even gotta push kids to do anything. You show them enthusiasm. They see the enthusiasm. They see what you're doing. You know, and they definitely, they gravitate to it. They'll at least appreciate, what you're doing. It doesn't mean that they want to make that their life. It doesn't mean, when I train my kids in, martial art, I was never like, I want you to be a fighter. It's like, what? It's like, I'm not going to do that. Just do that. I was never just doing fighting, but it's like self-defense. That's, if you ask me about the top three things, or top two things, I'm saying you better learn how to fight. You better learn how to defend yourself. And when I'm talking about defending yourself, I mean in terms of even your voice, opening your mouth. How many times do people not make a complaint? Like, because the complainer be like, oh, you're such a complainer. I'm like, what? Okay, all right. Get your raise when you get it then. All right. So I don't have that. I've not had that issue. I'm going to bring up my raise. I don't have. I can't tell you. I think that came with having mentors. I met some folks. I know some folks in my life. They don't have a mentor, or they didn't have mentors. And mentors. You know what I mean? Like, they care about you. You know, and they trying to. I always want somebody who knows something, and they want to impart their knowledge on you. And they want to give you information. They're looking to try to educate. You want somebody enthusiastic. You don't want somebody who's like, I don't know. Well, I'll see if I can teach you this. I guess they're paying me. I need to be here. How long? How much? Somebody who's enthusiastic, who's trying to teach you, and that's the kind of mentor you want. If you start early, you got to find your kids, a mentor. You get a mentor. Adults definitely, need, mentors. Especially, I mean, I don't know which age more so than any. I would say teens, and I could say 20s. You know, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. Well, Freno, Will Reno. I hope I'm saying that right. that's just a that's a whole process. Um, and I think a lot of times, like, people think self defense is so just physical, but I mean, before even people don't just come. Most people don't just come and attack you. They're usually seeing if you're weak enough. Will you accept it? Will you accept this foot on your neck? So you got to be teaching your child something else. But if you make your child afraid, of you, that's the beginning of them, being afraid. I don't think that it can't be, untaught. You have to go in on it. I think you would have to really go in on it. The best thing for you ask any fighter anybody who teaches martial arts, anyone who teaches self-defense, they will tell you that the best skill set of self-defense, and the best thing about it, you don't have to use, you don't have to be physical. You don't actually have to use it. you know um and there's some martial, I mean, that's not the same thing with me. I've had to use it, but most of my years, I mean, it's been a long time since I've had to actually, to use, any kind of, martial arts. You want to let people know, you want to, you definitely need to promote that, you know that because people gonna attempt to take advantage of you. I don't think people should go into life and thinking that everybody's gonna take advantage of them. But you definitely need to have that skill set. And but the thing is, it's tougher now to get it. But the mental awareness that folks teach in self defense can never be understated. More than just trying to disarm somebody, or trying to evade somebody, and trying to run, and get away from harm. Evading it, wait until you are evading. I wouldn't wait till I get approached, where it's a close situation where I could be attacked. I wouldn't know what to say to somebody who wants like physical training, right? Except to say, mental awareness first. I teach that self defense, because I do believe that self defense, like real self defense, would have to be taught in person, if you're talking about hands on. But martial arts is so mental, and people see the physicality in front of them all the time. But it's like anything in the world. When you're not in it, it's like, oh, you only see the surface. You don't see what it does to people. Like, think about when you train, you work out, you're able to jog and get around, or you walk again for the first time. That's what learning, understanding martial arts, and being able to protect yourself feels like. It feels like, wow. It's like I can speak up for myself. I want to speak up for myself. You know, and you want to protect yourself, and so you can learn that. That process, but it does have to be it should always be usually in combination with physical training, hands-on training, where you're learning actual moves, as well. And that's difficult. But at the very least, at least with young people can understand and really learn how to identify, what is a harmful situation. How do I identify, who is a bully, through particular language, certain language. um Seeing when people don't apologize. Like, somebody could say something really mean and rude to it doesn't automatically mean that they're bullying, right? How do they act when you call them out? How do they respond? How did you respond? Did you respond and find out, exactly, there? And I think that you could throw in, canceling miscommunication, allow you to speak, more. I don't think self-defense really, when I was, making sure that at certain jobs that I asked for my raise, you know, I don't think I was even thinking about, well, if they don't give me my raise, I'm going to fight them. No, I'm thinking, in my mind, like, how do I actually, defend myself, defend the work that I've been doing at this particular job? How do I actually, make sense with its principle? I need my dignity to stay with me when I have that. It's more than just the money. It's more than just the money. That respect that comes with that. When you actually speak up, for yourself, and you just have to practice that, because you're not really going to do that with everybody. You're not gonna, not the entire time, trying to challenge and but remember the times that you actually do speak up, for yourself. So it feels less of a daunting task. Because right now it might just feel like an entire task. I got to deal with everything now, because that's how people approach, veganism. Like, oh my God, organic, non-GMO, hybrids. Oh my goodness, what am I gonna do? Soy, all these. You approach it one step at a time. Approach self-defense one step at a time. Start opening your mouth and start actually saying what you believe. When I start opening my mouth, yeah, listen, I was like, I felt like, I felt honorable. I felt like I respect myself. I respect myself. And I know how that could feel. When you miss that opportunity to really speak up for yourself. And I know that people feel that, you miss those opportunities to speak up for yourself. I'll tell you like this: you gotta catch the next one. You gotta catch the next opportunity to speak up, for yourself. But allow your children to do that. It could be a great thing. Some people think like, oh my God, you can't bring kids into the world. If you bring babies into the world right now, it could be an amazing thing. There's so many concepts that have grown, during this generation. So many new concepts have grown that's been for the betterment of social justice. And I'm not talking about us being there. And I'm not talking about us actually acquiring, the justice. I'm saying that people are now speaking up. And then even if the people are not speaking up, some of our people are like, oh, there is a problem. I thought these folks was just yelling and, being upset. I didn't know. Like, there's literally some black folks was like, I know something wrong. There's something wrong going on in the air. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know, but white power, I don't know. White people got privilege. I don't know. Well, I don't know. I'm able to work. I feel things are, different. That feeling that you feeling, and is being described to you, is being articulated, to you, and it's getting you up, and it's even making you understand that had not people went out into the streets and made their voice heard, you already know, you old enough right now to know 4 years back, it'd have been the same. People would have been, they talking something different now. 8 years back, they talking something different. They talking something different than 8 years, than 12, than 16 or 20. It's a different, it's a difference of conversation. However, you still in the driver's seat. You got to understand that you still leading, as well. I don't want to go into that conversation, just yet. But I would say, keep your foot on the gas right now. This is not a time to just be like, well, we're going to, chill right now. This is what we wanted. A white man as a president, he gonna be nice to us. He gonna be nice to us. We gonna get some things. I don't think in those terms. Because if people, the problem with white power is that It's all dependent on if these motherfuckers gonna be nice to you. You know what I'm saying? It's if he could, because listen, let's be honest. Had a different circumstance, the circumstances were different. Stacey Abrams not in the situation. Black folks not protesting. Being out there. Right? Trump wins, right? Trump either wins or say we're not there, but he happens to lose anyway. If and black folks didn't open up their mouth and we didn't say anything and we didn't fight for this justice, listen, Biden would have been talking a different game. Come on now, he got a history. I don't know about y'all, but he's been in, what I'm saying, he's been in the Senate. He's been in politics for like 40 years. This man he's been around. He got a track record. Trust and believe this. This is different what he talking right now. He talking different. So you got to stay on it, and so you got to definitely stay on it. But I really wanted to stay on parents. And I'm gonna close in a few minutes and just let people know. Just I have chores for my children and Nadia's children. And it's like, and it's like, can you do this? Handle this and handle that. And it's like you teaching them to go ahead and handle problems when they see it, that they're doing it for everybody. How you in a family, in a household, and that's a community, that's a family household, and you need to force them to go ahead and do this at a certain age where they can understand and they can actually do the job. I understand how you work it. That's how you do at your job. That's how you do at your job where you go. But you can't set them up to be workers. You set them up to be people. You set them up to be people. We figuring that out, right? You set folks up to be, not to follow what is already out there. Going. So sometimes my daughter had to go back and say things, to the teacher, and I'm like, listen. And I told my daughter before, like, listen, no talking in the class, and she understand what I mean. Don't be talking in the class like off here, Say something, raise your hand and speak your piece. And so she'll go ahead and she'll speak her piece, and I'll end with this. She had there was a teacher in there. Now understand this, how these teachers may be teaching our children, right? Our black children in particular, and other children of color, right? So it's a white teacher, white woman who was teaching, and she brought up the insurrection at the Capitol, right? And you got to pay attention to how are they explaining this? How are they going to explain this? And so my daughter, has an activist for dad, right? And so my daughter is smart. In a number of cases, she's brought up to the principal and them, and they've had to change with their class. So she be on it, So the teacher was actually saying that there wasn't the people, like, they were nice people, like, that they disagreed with the vote. She was still saying that after the insurrection and talking about it. She was saying that the people disagreed with the vote, that this is what they were supposed to do. And of course, my daughter said no. What? They passed that process. They were literally trying to take over that process. They were literally trying to she didn't even speak to the issue of the contradiction of this double standard, where white folks could just go in there and just start harming cops. But if we even just cause cops to just come out and have to put on their gear, all their riot gear, to just come up, we have so many Black Lives Matter, Blue Lives Matter, folks, coming up. And so she made that point about that double standard, right? So you need to be teaching your children, this, and watching this, because the number of times that she said that there ain't other students is also speaking this, and it makes activists for a very long time look like we fucking crazy. Like we crazy and shit. Guess what? Y'all was crazy the entire time, right? Anybody who wasn't an activist, right? Anybody who didn't recognize that it was an issue. We wasn't crazy. You know what I'm saying? So, and you seen that in Living Color. How many times they have jokes where they have black folks on there? You know what I mean? I don't even know if I should forgive them. They have black folks on there, and they just make it look like all these motherfuckers just complaining. Meanwhile, we done pushed that envelope for you. We done pushed that envelope, for the entire country. And guess what? It actually starts to uh, uh, be replicated around the world, you know. And we saw folks, protesting around the world in solidarity, as well. You really have to. I literally said early on that I wasn't even going to be talking about the politics and social justice. Listen, so that is exactly the reasoning why I say that you gotta let your children kind of debate with you. If you let these suckers over here at your job tell you what to do, and then when it comes to your child, you like, well, I'm bigger than you, so I'm gonna tell you what to do. Man, that is sucker work. I don't do it at all. I don't even. I just. I can't do that. Not that I can't. Sometimes be like yelling at my child, like you better get out of here. And, you know what I'm saying? Like, and go ahead and do this and go ahead and do that. But the fact that I would be allowing white supremacy in any form dictate how I move my life, going to work, and be told, hey, I need you to go ahead and do this. And I'm not saying this without even in any kind of receipts. I've worked at these spaces and these places, and if you talk too loud, if you too, I mean, they're gonna just let you go. If you're doing any of this kind of work, right? So there's definitely repercussions, on that end. But at least you don't have to take it there. You could at least start with your children in terms of understanding where they're coming from. We're gonna be debating with children, all the time, but it's gonna be enhancing them. It's literally now. Now, some dude can't just come into your daughter's life and be like, "Let me tell you something. You need to be, and because of this, and I need you to be cleaning here and cleaning that." I'm like, "But wait a second, hold on. But I'm at work right here." And you at work, why does it fall on me? You know what I mean? So there needs to be this conversation that we having with our kids. My daughter see me talking about that often. She watches it on YouTube as well. She was like, I'm about to come in, I'm about to go in even heavier, and then it's always a there's a place of balance and respect, that's always given to that parent. Because at the end of the day, who's making sure that everybody is accounted for? Who has that ability? Who's making sure that everybody is accounted for? You ask your children, you went around and you went to through a number of different necessities in life, right? Anything that they particularly needed and anything that you needed, they would say, well, I deem you to be the leader to make sure that we get what we need, right? And so therefore that needs to be respected, and that has to be said so that there's a conversation and that we understand the structure, that it's not just because I'm bigger than you, you know what I mean? But it's because that, listen, what I'm saying is for the betterment of both of us, of all of us. You understand? And so more conversation with the babies. But any case, I don't want to talk y'all heads off. More than that, I appreciate those who able to stay around. Much love to y'all. All right. I'm Mawale. This is Black VegFest Breakout. We'll be back next week, Wednesday at 12 p.m. Peace. I'm gonna have a haircut too. All right. One of the things that I do discuss with folks is, it's kind of just like you got to force people to see you how you are. You know what I mean? And so that's how I see my lady. I'm like, yo, wake up and like, you know what I'm saying? But if you seeing your lady and she don't need to, she ain't putting on makeup, because she do makeup, but she ain't, putting it on a consistent basis. You know what I mean? And she comfortable. You know what I'm saying? If they putting makeup on, with you around and here, I'm like, well then it might not be comfortable. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? So, and I'm comfortable. Whereas a lot of times, like, of course, you gotta, you get a fade when you going out or whatever the case may be. You get done up or whatever. I'm not some person who's like, oh, forget makeup. Like, nah. Um, or in terms of getting haircut or whatever the case may be. But it's like getting people to respect and love you as you are. You know what I mean? Regardless of anything else. And you get haircuts and or you do your hair or put makeup on when you want to. 100%. All right, peace.